I pray that there be something that we say tonight that will be life changing, that will be able to help, that will be able to empower, encourage, but most of all, God, remind women the power of staying connected to you, staying connected to marriage, staying connected to ministry, staying connected to you like never before. God, I say thank you. I bless you, oh God. I honor you for everything that you've done, everything you will do, and everything you have done this far. In Jesus' name, amen, 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 amen. Thank y'all again so much for joining. If you're watching the video, if I decide to post this, I don't know yet. If you're watching, we are talking about my new book. You are the fragrance. Super excited about this book. About the people that have been inboxing me about this book. I'm also excited that I pray that this book is life changing, like my last book, Church Hurt, but It Helped, which is a sequel to this particular book. For the last 3 days, we have been talking about some different chapters in this book. Day one, we talked about you are not alone. As I stated in the first day, was that this book is designed for a pastor's wife. But at the same time, y'all heard that comma, but there is a comma after your name. You got to watch the video to understand what I'm talking about. So, and just explaining to other women that it's bigger than just the pastor's wife. Yes, it is designed and created for pastor wife because pastor wives do not, there's not a lot of safe places and it's not a lot of books out there that can empower. There are books, but there are not a lot of books that can empower, that can encourage us as pastor wives. So I had to write something for my group, for pastors' wives connection, as well as some other things that I'm getting ready to do. So here's the thing: I realized this is that in the process of learning, that as I was writing this book, that this book was not just created for pastor's wife, but it was also created for that woman that allows people to put them in this box, that allows people to put them in this state of prison, and as a pastor's wife, they give us a title and say, you are Pastor or Lady Harden, period. No comma, but a period. In this book, my goal is to show you, baby, there's a comma after your name. You are not just their mama. You're not just their grandmother, period. You're not just mama, period. But you are comma, 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 comma. A whole bunch of commas. In other words, I am Pastor Tonya, comma, mother, comma, wife, comma, author, comma, entrepreneur, comma, business owner, comma. Come on here, somebody. There's some commas after your name. But in 2015, I shared with you, I was just Tonya Clyde Harden's wife, period. And them girls' mama, period. That was it. With no comma. But I learned how to do the comma. And so what I talk about in this book is to remind women that you are the fragrance. You are the woman that is designed for greater. So the first day we talked about you are not alone. But I share with you some principles and some tools that are already in this book. We also talked about yesterday, day two, we talked about the blessing in the betrayal. Before I close this out tomorrow, so Pastor Wives, I'm going to be pushing you to join me. Every woman that is connected to me, I'm going to push you to join me because tomorrow I'm going to be talking about from purpose to, I forgot what y'all know what I'm talking, I don't know the topic, but it's from purpose to some, I'm going to show you how to pursue your purpose. How about that? My goal at the end of this book, the very last chapter in this book, is teaching women how to do ministry outside of the four walls of your church. You are just not the pastor's wife, but it's so much bigger than that. And I would say to any woman that's watching, you are just not a woman, but you are called to so much greater, so much more that God has in store for you. I heard someone say this today, and I want to share this before we deep dive into this, is that I found out this, Sister Lee, we have two choices, right? We have a choice to choose a packet. And in this packet is filled with so many things. We got a choice to choose a door. Let me go there. I'm going to do Bishop style. We have a choice to choose a door. And so behind one door, that door, they have everything. There's everything in their houses, cars, everything you need, everything you want is behind that door. Behind the other door is just enough. Come here, somebody. You could choose just enough, or you could choose everything you need. It's up to you. It's all about a choice. It's what you're depending on and what you're wanting to do. And so it's making that choice to say, I want to choose the door that I can not only just have houses and cars for me, but I can also help others get houses and cars. It ain't about material things, but I choose a different door. What do I choose? I choose door two because in door two, I'm not gonna take all that to my grave. The goal is in this book. Don't take everything to your grave. There's too many people in the graveyard with things that they've taken to their grave. And so I'm sharing with you the tools on how, and as you can see how thick it is, it's a lot of tools on how to not just take it to your grave, but take it farther than that, right? To do it today, move forward. You can. Oh, that's what he said. I'm gonna use this part, and I'm done. I'm gonna turn it over. He said 40 years it took the people of Israel to get where they were supposed to get to the promised land, right? Everybody know the story. Just put your hand up. 40 years for Israel. They were supposed to go for 40 days, but they went for 40 years. It could be up to you if you want to go 40 years or 40 days. How quick you want to get there. So you got to ask yourself which one you want to do 40. They chose 40 years because they were rebellious. They walked in fear. They walked in doubt. They walked in all these things. But then the Lord said you could get there in 40 days though. Which one you going to choose? The people of Israel chose 40 years. My question to you in this book, what I'm telling you, what you going to choose? Which one you going to choose? Yeah, 40 years or 40 days. You can get there either way. But they still got to the promised land. It just took them longer. So, with that being said, I am discussing this book, and I'm discussing tonight. We're going to be talking to a lady that has read this book. She is have been a part of my mentee class with Pastor Wives that I have in the month of March. Actually, this year I did 3 years, three years. Jesus on the main line. I did 3 months, not 3 years. Jesus. No, Lord, that's not what the Lord said. 3 months, and being that it was 3 months, we were able to deep dive in a lot of information we talked about in this book. So I want to get someone else's opinion and someone else's statements and things about this particular book. What is it that she pulled? What is she? Y'all know me. What is the takeaway and all that great stuff? And even I'll even add Lady Davis if she want to chime in as well. But I'm gonna start with Lady Payne. Lady Payne, if you don't know her, Lady Payne, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a
A
little bit.
little bit. Okay. I
Just
have a lot, but I'm gonna tell a little bit.
okay, go
I
ahead.
am a pastor's wife, comma, a mother of 5 daughters, comma,
Come
an
on,
entrepreneur, comma, an author, comma, a student, comma, and some more dots behind that.
come
But
on.
most of all, I am a child of God, and I am thrilled to be here. I am learning so many things. I connected because of what my dissertation is on, which is Pastor Wives, and I connected to Pastor Hardy. But guess what? God had other plans. I within a day or two, I became a part of the mentee program for the Butterfly Academy, and then I moved from that part to being a part of the Harden Industry Enterprises job program, whatever it's called. But
The light man.
yeah, that Lions Den. So
Yeah.
I am thankful because God has the plan bigger than us. But more importantly, and we'll talk about this later, this book right here, you probably can't see because I have this filter on, but it just spoke to everything that I've gone through. And if I had it in 2015 and beyond before, then life would have been a lot easier for me. But God knows our destiny, He knows what we have to go through. And that's why I believe I'm here tonight.
Yeah, because you do have a lot of commas, you do have a lot of dots. And I want to talk about the book a little bit. What part? Because we did talk about betrayal. We talked about that a little heavy last night. So, what part do you want to start at? I want to kind of give it to you. What do you think the most juicy part that you took out?
I believe it's probably the shortest part of the book, but
Okay.
it was the biggest and most impactful to me, which is marriage. And when you're married to a pastor, when your husband is the pastor, when you don't have a spiritual mother or father, it can be interesting. I'm not gonna say it's a challenge, but it definitely has its moments. But it grew me as an individual. And when I've read that part of the book, because I started reading it. Now, mind you, I am not a reader. I am almost finished writing my dissertation for a doctorate degree, and I hate reading. But when I got this book, first and foremost, the size of the writing was perfect for me. I didn't get intimidated with the book, even though it looked a little bit bigger than what I thought it was, but it had the meat in it. And I prayed to God to connect me to a ministry where I can learn the word for myself. I went through the process of ministry and how to be a better me for the ministry. But what God did the most in me with was in my marriage. And if I don't have my marriage intact, the ministries that God is leading me to is not going to flow. And it's interesting because Pastor T knows my story, but where I've been at in my marriage has definitely been a detriment to the church. It's been a detriment to the many things of behind those commas behind my name. But once I learned who I was in Christ and who I am in Christ, it began to let those things look different. I began to look at my husband differently. And when you were transparent about just your marriage, it helped me to realize that it's nothing that God can't do. When you go through and it leads right into the betrayal, I was on here last night, but I couldn't really talk because my phone was doing some things. But it led me into that because I experienced a lot of betrayal from my marriage, and it was this competition. My husband would say all the time, "It's not a competition between you and the ministry and you and the members," and but it was a competition that I didn't have knowledge on how to get through. And when I dealt with those different roles of betrayal with the ministry and with different people, it impacted my marriage a whole lot because I didn't know how to be a pastor's wife. It didn't come with a book. And I always say this, there's a class to become a deacon, a pastor. It's classes that you can go through. It's um, there theological seminaries that you can go through. When you become a member of the church, there's new members class and things like that that you can experience. But up until now, there has not been a gateway to say this is what's best practices to become a pastor's wife. And it now that I know how to be a better wife to my husband. So that marriage part of the book just really spoke to me. And even when I see you as a pastor, comma, I know how to speak to my husband. I know how to affirm him because before my mind was you're just a man. Yes, he's my pastor, but you're just a man.
Wait,
Like you was
wait, Lady Trivia. I'm gonna tell you now. You're probably messing up a lot because a lot of people on here are not pastor wives, right? And
yes,
so I wanted to do this together because the whole reason for the book is for that person to see through the lens of a pastor's wife, and for the pastor's wife to see through the lens of another individual of the church. And I think what happened was, in this book, my goal was to tear down all walls of this. We put you on a pedestal and you're great and you're awesome. No, no, no. We all got the same issues. We all women,
yes,
period. Right? We're all women and we all go through. And even
absolutely,
with the marriage part, that could be for any woman. It doesn't just have to be for pastor's wife. Yeah,
absolutely,
let's talk about that with not just being
absolutely.
for any woman. I mean pastor's wife.
Because I feel like being a pastor's wife is one can of worms. But if I would have known me as an individual, even if I didn't marry a pastor, what I've learned over these last 7 years have taught me that I have a responsibility. I have a place in that marriage that despite what I feel like my husband is doing or what he's not doing, or you're just a person, I still have a responsibility to God. I still have a responsibility to my marriage. I still have a responsibility to myself. And sometimes I'm literally asking God, and this is a transparent moment. God, how did you allow me to go through all of this stuff, but I still have to respect my husband? I still have to respect him as my pastor. And even again, outside of me being married to a pastor, I learned how to respect my husband as a man of God, despite his flaws, despite my flaws. And this is for anybody that desires to be married or is even married now. Things are not going to be great all the time. But when you do your part, God will put things in line. um some of the things that I experienced since 2015, and I got gut punched and all kinds of stuff, and God showed me that the Bible has a ordained order. It tells us what comes first, what comes next. And a lot of people try to play slick with it and say, well, you have to respect your husband as he respects Christ. True, don't get me wrong. But as a woman, you should respect your husband regardless and let God deal with it. Because I seen God do a work at my husband just because outside of him pastoring me, because he couldn't pastor me when he was going through his stuff. But God did some things. God allowed me to pray for him. God allowed me to pray out those spirits that the book talked about. It wasn't about my husband. It was about the fact that he was dealing with some spirits, and I had to be that interceder. I had to be that person that stood in the gap for him, myself, and a marriage. And I'm gonna end it with this. I remember going to a marriage, a wedding that my husband officiated one year, and I did not like him. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there for the people who was getting married because I didn't care for the wife. God, yeah. But I knew I had to be there. And he preached to them, God is the pinnacle. And he talked about how we line up. It's God and me, God and him. And even if we're out of order, God should still be the pinnacle of your marriage. And that kept me from 2015 until now, and I've seen God do some things, and I've watched people say, well, how did you do this? And I know what you went through, and God, all I can say is it's nobody but God. I didn't do it for me. I didn't do it for show. I did it because I am a woman first, and when I realized that I was a woman first, I found the value that God had placed in me to become a better wife. So it doesn't have to do with being a pastor's wife. I had to learn who I was as an individual.
That part. Yes, I love it. Um, any other part you wanna talk about? You wanna discuss that
Woo.
was in the book?
I'm sorry, I'm taking y'all back to the betrayal part.
Let's go back.
um, so I got into this. I've always had women pastors, and I got into ministry with my husband from day one. He spent quite a few years in prison, and then he came home, and God opened up doors for him. Well, when we first started the church, it was he, my children, and myself that started the church. And as we brought more people on, it got messy, real messy. And I remember somebody saying at a meeting, well, if something happened to the pastor, you wouldn't be the next pastor. And it crushed me, but God said, I'm the one that's in charge. And I knew what I was getting into at that point. Well, as the years went by, I started experiencing some betrayal like none other. And it was like at one point I watched different journeys that my husband went through where he didn't know how to protect me. He didn't know how to separate marriage and ministry. And as I began to grow for myself, I began to see things, and God began to give me insight. And I would be the one going to my husband, pastor, all the time saying, this is happening, this is happening. But he just saw me. So things got worse and worse and worse. And I began to see people leave the church. but I didn't know at the time that it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they would talk about me. They would go to my husband. They would tell me all the time, "Well, such and such and such and such." Well, I'm going to tell Pastor, and I was rough. I'm not going to lie. I didn't care. I didn't have a filter, and I would tell him, "Get out my face. That's my husband. That's not my father." And even my father don't tell me what to do, and it just would cause so much tension. And I remember before I disconnected because I just didn't want to have anything to do with the church. And I said, "You all are going to respect me and my kids just like you respect my husband." I said, "We do more in this church to make sure you get what you need than he does." And I didn't need to say all of that, but that's how I felt at the time. And I realized that I could go to church and support my husband and not be a part of women's ministry and this and that. And I just didn't want to. But something happened in 2015 where I went through this Job moment, and all of the betrayal that had been going on from 2013 to 2015 just hit hard. And when I read this book, there was a lot of things that I wish I had known before I experienced those things that I just watched God do. I never had a real spiritual mother, or spiritual father. And people always come in your church and say, "Oh, I'm your spiritual mother. I'm past the spiritual mother. I'm past the spiritual father." No, God didn't tell me that. God didn't tell him that. But there were people who we believe God said that about, and that just never happened. So we never had direction. So all of the mess and the betrayal and the mistrust and all of those things just really took precedent over everything. Our marriage, where it caused betrayal in our marriage, it caused me to experience some things with my husband. And I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, because the book even talked about that. Don't get me wrong. But it caused some things to happen that shouldn't have happened. That's very unbiblical, but God has given me the wisdom to again start seeing him more than seeing the person or seeing the spirit in him. There was, and I'm only going to speak to this one particular person, but there was a woman in our church who knew she could go to my husband and say anything. She would email him, send him texts about me, and he would never deal with the issue. Um, and recently, this particular woman doesn't go to our church, but she requested me to be a part of this event that they want to have that my husband and I birthed. We have a house for men coming home from prison that we funded with our five daughters and did not have. We took from our kids to provide for this ministry. And in the midst of it, she started doing the same thing that she was doing. See, the book already said when you know somebody and when you know that they're capable of doing it, then it shouldn't surprise you. And you just continue to do what you were doing. And that's what I used actually during this situation, because what she was doing recently did not surprise me, but I knew that my why and my mission was to be there for this ministry that God allowed my husband and I to start. So I didn't step back. I wasn't going to go to a meeting that they had on Sunday, but I had to remember it's about God. It's not about me, and people are going to be messy. I know they're going to be messy. And I just continue to work as if I continue to put my 110%. But you're going to be betrayal. You're going to go through things. People are not going to like you for things that you never did. They're going to talk about you, and you're doing everything for them. They're going to drag your name through the mud, but they're never going to tell how you stayed up and prayed for them. They're never going to tell, and I'm going to finish with this, but they're never going to tell how you were there when they were in the hospital. They're never going to tell that side of the story. They're just going to tell what they believe that you did that wronged them.
Thank you, Lady Trivia. So I want to say this because there's things that we do. I always say, as pastors' wife, we make mistakes. We mess up, and I'm so glad that those that are on here are able to hear from another pastor's wife perspective. But I also want to say the time because you said something key. The times that you messed up in this book, Were you able to see your mistakes and your mistakes?
Absolutely. Again, if I had that person that wasn't afraid to tell me when I was wrong outside of my husband, I would have been good. But I said some things. I went to the wrong people about the wrong situations when I could have confronted the situation the same way those who had an issue with me could have confronted me. Um, I could have respected my husband, even though I didn't feel like he was respecting me. So there was a lot of things that I could have done, and I didn't have to cuss them out the way I did.
Oh
But
Lord Jesus. Wait, come on. Wait, stop. Hold up. We ain't gonna run past that. Hold up. So you telling me, as the pastor's wife, you cussed them out?
oh, I did. It was early on, but yes, I did.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think some people think the pastor wives won't cuss you out. You know, I pray we don't now. Let me say that.
Yeah,
Let me say
I
that.
yeah.
We should be grown. You know, that's not where we should be right now. You know what I'm
Definitely.
saying? But we make mistakes. I wanted you to say that because we make mistakes as past. I talk about this, you guys, in the book, is that we make mistakes as pastors' wives where we didn't talk too much, we didn't done too much, we shouldn't have done, we did it before we knew it. We make mistakes just like anybody else. And
Amen.
it's learning from those mistakes and being willing to evolve with your pastor's wife, with your leader, as well as the pastor's wife being willing to evolve with the members. You got to be willing to evolve. If they gonna give you a chance, you got to give them a chance as well. And I talk about that in the
Yeah.
book. Anything else you want to add that you learned from the book?
Well, I did not necessarily learn this from the book, but this is who I am today. And if you can see my shirt, it says Jesus did it. I
Mhm.
learned this from Pastor T, wear things that represent you because I'm like, I have to dress up, I have to this. And God made it where I can't wear high heel shoes. That bothers me so bad. But I have to wear tennis. So I'm learning to wear things that represent me and what God is calling me to. And I get to play around with things and make them myself. But I just thank God for this book because although I've went through a lot of these stages, it just showed me and reminded me of where God brought me from. And it also keeps me on track to where God has taken me.
Yeah. Hey, I wear stuff too. Mine says Jesus and therapy.
Yes.
Jesus and therapy. Hey, you need Jesus and you need therapy, both of
Yeah.
them. So I love rocking stuff that I represent that that I believe in definitely. Um, but any last thing, anything you want to share, anything you want to give about the book, something that we could discuss.
You are the fragrance. This book says it all. And whether you want to be that smelly fragrance where you don't want to take from this book and learn from it, or you want to be that fragrance of roses where you take and you feed it to others, you are that individual. You are not who everybody says you are. And I do want to say one last thing. When it comes to who you are as a woman, not just a pastor's wife, but as a woman, you have to take all of those darts that were thrown at you. And you said earlier, pain was something, is turn your pain into purpose. You have to take all of that pain and make it your purpose because I don't know how many times I've heard somebody say to me, well, you act like a victim. While I am a victim, however, I didn't allow that situation that made me a victim keep me a victim. It allowed me to take all of those things and feed it back into my nonprofit for children affected by incarceration. It allowed me to take that pain that I dealt with to turn it into purpose and start a radio station for people to give them a voice. I don't have to be the one speak, but there are people that have things to say, and there are people who need to hear what they have to say. So God allowed me to turn my pain into purpose. Don't negate the fact that you have been victimized, but take that and make it something better.
I love it. Yes, ma'am, Ham. I love it, Lady Trivia. I love it. And Lady Davis, I know you read. Have you read some of the book? Have you read some of the book yet? I know you got the book. Is she there?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Have you read some of the
Give me.
book?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have, Pastor T. Allow me just a moment. I've got some noise going on here in my background. Give me just
That's okay. You're okay. Lady Trivia, what would you tell that woman that is not a pastor's wife?
whew, grace. And
Oh,
I
wait,
think
girl, wait. That was like you. See, it's the words for me, baby. Grace. Say that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
yes,
ahead.
grace. Because
Yeah.
we are not perfect. And sometimes we are made to be somebody that we're not. And as a member of a church, as a person that's looking on the inside, give your pastor's wife grace. Pastor wives, give your members grace. And sometimes it's not easy to do, but when we give grace, it makes things so much easier. We're not going to like everything that everybody does, but when we know that, and this is in the book, that it's a spirit and not a person, because the word says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, then we're able to give grace humbly and we're able to give it genuinely.
Hmm. I love it. I want to ask. There's a young lady, and she don't know that I'm about to do this, but I'm gonna do it, and you don't have to turn on your camera, nothing like that. But I want to ask you because you work with me for years, Sister Sherelle, prepare yourself. And I hope I ain't mess you up, but I know I just did because I know you. Um, so y'all, this is off the cuff. She has no idea what I'm about to do. So Sherelle, you there? Sugar.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to ask you, working with a pastor's wife for first of all, yeah, working with a pastor's wife and the things you have seen. What would you say to every individual on this call, not a pastor's wife or is a pastor's wife, something that you could give them to encourage going forward to see through the lens of a pastor's wife and a actual individual? Can you share something for me?
What can I give them?
Yeah, you want me to come back to you? I'm asking.
No, no, no.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
Yes. As far as in my the position I was in, as far as being patient, loving what you do, because I love to serve.
Oh, let
Um,
me explain who she was because I'm sitting up here because everybody don't know who she was. So that was a time that she was my right hand. I don't want to say Alma Bear, but I use her for my mentees a lot when I have my ladies come in and they do like team building and all that and character building. And so I want to with her. She worked with me for over 5 years. I want to say, but she
yes,
ended
ma'am.
up moving to another state, but she saw a lot of things that went on. She experienced a lot. She was right there with me. There were times she had to. And here, come here, Pastor Wise, and y'all know what I'm about to say. Pastor Wise, you don't want nobody that ain't a little hood next to you. You need somebody with a little hood and they'll be on the side of you because they may anyway. So that's a whole nother subject. But anything that you would share, Sister Sherelle, with them. So that's pretty much a little bit about her. She's been with me for years. So go ahead.
Like I was saying, be patient. Um, I said something else too. You know how my mind is, Pastor T.
Hmm. Hmm.
We said, be patient. Be loyal. I'm a very loyal person. Um, just know what position that you're in. Like you may see a lot of stuff behind them doors, but what you see and what you hear, stay behind them doors. And I said this once before: know who you are and whose you are, and just love what you do. Like I said earlier, I love to serve, and I was pastor. I love serving for her. I just love being there. I hope I'm helping a little bit.
Yeah.
If what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense because I think too that's the thing. I think if a lot of people learn just to give that pastor's wife that grace, understand there's a lot that they already experience and understand there's a lot that they go through. I think that's very, very important. I want you to also add this part. what should a pastor's wife do for those that are around them? Should they be nasty, talk to them crazy, tell them like how does that work?
My thing is
How
like with that, this is me. This is me.
okay,
I'm okay with constructive criticism. I'm
okay,
okay with it, because it's
mm-hmm,
only helping me.
mm-hmm.
Um, um, you never like talk crazy to me, but you did tell me one time that I did put my hand out there on that girl, like she was moving too close to you. I'm just saying, I didn't think I did it forcefully, but she was moving too close to you. But it
Yeah,
was gentle. I mean,
it was.
you was very gentle with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Sister Rest. Lady Kelly said, I agree. You have to love who you serve. You gotta love who you serve. I always say this: if you love the pastor, and then you got an issue with the pastor's wife, you got an issue with them.
Right, right. And like I
It
said
ain't
once
right.
Right.
before, like the reason why I love serving you, it's like I wasn't serving you, I was serving God. Because I didn't want to do anything
Right,
to disappoint or hurt God. So it's like I know what I'm doing is for God and it's gonna be done right as I'm serving you.
right. And not only did she serve up me, but if she saw that that was something that Bishop needed, she would serve him as well. And I think that's very, very important that when it comes down, and most people, and that's what I really, really deal with in the book about staff. When you have people that work in staff, some people are known to kind of switch and turn on the leaders or on the pastor's wife, and I talk about the competition that ends up happening. And one thing I love about her is that that was never the case. Sister Lee as well, but that was never the case. And because at first when she came on, I was very, very, hear me, pastor's wife, and anybody that's watching, I was very, very leery because of betrayal. I was very, very leery because of betrayal. I did not want to experience it again. I did not want to go through it. But here's the thing, I'm pretty sure Sister Sherelle could tell you she was very, very leery. Like, okay, how do I work with her? Because I don't really know her like that, right? Am I right, Sister Sherelle?
Right, right. And I also had like this one lady would like come and ask me questions like, what was I talking about up there or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you just had this position. So therefore you know the rules and regulations. So why would I? Don't come at me like that.
As y'all can see, she a little hood. That's why I love her. But yeah, uh, that would be her. Yeah, yeah, I love her. She done moved it out to a whole nother city.
Austin. It's Austin
Yeah,
City.
to Austin, but one day. But anyway, I wanted to share that. Thank you so much, Sister Sherelle.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much for sharing that. I wanted to share that because here's the thing. I want the whole purpose for this book is to be able to allow people to see through each other's eyes. So what I want to do at this moment, I want to open it. Oh, Lady Davis, I said I wanted you to say something. Can you give me about 5 minutes of you saying something towards the book really, really quick?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Want me to go now or just kind of wait?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so what spoke to me, of course, was because this is an area that I'm really passionate about, and this is your platform, Pastor Tonya, and the Pastor's Wife Connection, is that staying connected to God, staying connected to your marriage, and also staying connected to ministry. And in that particular chapter, you begin to talk about balance and how balance is really important. And so from my perspective, we could be connected to God and we love the Lord with all of our heart, our soul, our mind, our strength. We just want to do the will of the Lord. And we become so engulfed in that we, and this is not just from a pastor's wife perspective, but from a woman in ministry, and just in life period, because we could be connected and so focused on our call and whatever it is that we're doing, whether it's a business, from a business standpoint, ministry, or whatever the case may be. And we can get so engulfed in those activities where we become unbalanced on the home front. And so I think that it's very important to stay connected to your marriage through it all, because your connection to your marriage is essentially
what fuels, in my opinion, what fuels the strength of everything else that you've got going on. So for me, being in ministry, if my marriage isn't intact, my family isn't intact. And if my family isn't intact, then, because we've got folks that are connected to us in ministry, we'll start to see dysfunction even in the ministry. And so staying connected to your marriage and then being able to work through any pressure points. Pastor Tonya, you talked about those triggers, and one of the triggers being frustration and
Yes.
confusion and tension. And so when those triggers arise, being able to work through those triggers to ensure that you're balanced and you're still connected, to your marriage. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but um
Yeah.
that was the chapter that really spoke to me, the most. And so even from a personal standpoint, my husband and I, he has a full-time business. I have a full-time job, and then we're bivocational ministers, and so we also pastor a church, and I'm busy, with ministry activities even during the week. But after we pour out and do everything that we do on a Sunday morning, it's like, okay, I'm not taking any text messages now. I'm not taking any phone calls because this is
Right.
my husband's, and this is my time, our time to pour back into each other and feed each other emotionally, physically, so that we can continue to pour back into everything else that we've got going on, whether it's the job, the family, the ministry, the business. And so I do believe in balance, and we have date nights. I'm not just so focused on having Bible study every day of the week,
Right.
or working towards Sunday service every day of the week. I shut that down a little bit. And honey, when we going out to eat?
Yeah.
when we gonna have a
Right.
date night? So again,
Right.
just having that balance in your marriage and ensuring that your marriage is stable so that everything else that is attached to you can have stability as well, can have longevity as well, and that can be healthy as well. So
Right.
I'm not sure if that helped
Ah,
anybody, but that was my 2 cents.
yes, I love it. Thank y'all so much. All right, so what I want to do is open up for questions. This is the time tomorrow. I'm gonna just talk about 15 minutes, but I'm gonna have it open for questions. For any questions that you may have about ministry, about marriage, about life, whatever. I wanted to use my birthday month to pour. But tonight, any questions you have, I will say this. Write this down really, really quick. I'm glad Lady Davis brought that up. It's one of the things that I always teach and I always remind people, and that's a pastor's wife or just a woman that's doing life, marriage, ministry, all that. Is that balance is what you create. Keep that one in your back pocket. Balance is what you create. You got to create balance. There ain't no such thing as my life got better. No, you got to create it. Balance is what you create. But here, any questions? Anybody have any questions about these pastor wives that's out here thugging and dogging you out? I know I'm so hood. I know it. They out here dogging you out in these streets. Hey, how do I handle that? Or pastor wife, how do I handle these folks that's dogging me out? Let's talk. Let's chop it up real quick. I got about 15 minutes. Let's chop it up, chop it up, chop it up. Any questions?
Well, I just want to say I commend you all, pastors' wives. I commend you all because I don't see how you all do it. I'm not even just talking about like the people in the congregation, like just talking, like running your name in the ground or whatever the case might be, but like having so many different things that you have to do. It's like, for me, it's like overwhelming, but I commend you all. God bless you and continue to do what you're doing. I love you all.
Amen. Can y'all give
Thank
it
you,
up
Sister Sherelle.
for Clyde?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That mean the world. That
Yeah,
I know, right? Kisses, kisses, Sister. They doing
I
the
yeah.
would blow a kiss too, but this head, I'm natural. Mm-mm.
Is that you that see it? Any other questions or statements? Sister Lee has been rocking with me for a couple of years. Oh, go ahead, Lady Tripp. You was going to ask a question. You was going
Oh
to
no,
make
I
a
was just going to make a statement about a part in the book with the staff, and that is challenging. And I don't know if you were referring to this, But I was watching a video that Sarita Jakes had, and she was talking about how people look at the pastor wives and they really don't know what they go through. But when you get a staff, it's like one of those things where we need to have an FBI check for pastor, the staff that's working with the pastor and the pastor wife, because she did this thing where she said they went into the jail and they saw the women locked up, and that's how pastor wives feel a lot of times. And I don't think that the staff of the church really get that. And I wish that it was more platforms like this where we can share, because a lot of church members take direction from the staff at the church. And like Sherelle said, if you don't love the pastor's wife and the pastor that you're working with, you can cause a lot of havoc in the church. And it seems like it's coming from another direction, but they're taking the lead from the staff. And I remember at one point, I kept feeling the Holy Spirit say to me that this individual person slash group was trying to take over our ministry that God entrusted us with. And I began to pray about it, but I knew that that group of people were not there for my husband at the time. At one point, it was they were there to worship him. And as long as he was catering, they were good. But then when he started to fall, they were ready to throw him under instead of praying and walking him through the situation. And again, it's hard when you have a staff that betray you, and help me, Holy Ghost, and the pastor doesn't see it, but the pastor wife sees it, and it's nothing that you can do about it but take it to God.
You know what? Don't play with me. Don't play with her, as my daughter was saying.
That's good
Don't
right
play with
there.
her. Yeah, that's a good conversation. I really, because I'm going with the pastor's wife, for all the pastor's wife on here. I'm really thinking about going to a setting like this where we come every third Thursday, coming here in this type of setting instead of me going live on Facebook. And I may ask if it'll be a night for the pastor wives and the staff, because that you brought about a great point. And I'm gonna stop recording right here because I don't need nobody taking my words and twisting them. God bless y'all. Thank you for watching. If I show this, stay blessed in all you do. God bless you. Um, but